This whole seedy underground that goes on, the death care industry is that it's called now because we want to make it sound so much more civilized. It's totally unregulated.
A small, rural farm community just became the scene of America's largest body brokering, abuse of a corpse crime in history.
This has become literally the Wild West of body brokering. Megan showed us that. So David was in the Air Force. He was an Air Force reservist. He was a C-130 mechanic. He came up through during the early 90s during Desert Shield and Desert Storm. He did hot drops over theater through Kuwait and Saudi during that time period. And then his reservist enlisted contract was up, so we jumped plane, joined the Army. So a Gold Star spouse is a spouse whose husband or wife or partner has been killed in action or has met the criteria of service-related service connection through the VA. I was able to prove that his heart attack was due to the hypertension that he'd been diagnosed with in the military and because of his military career. And so that gave me the honor of being a Gold Star spouse. After we'd been out of the military, he started just having seizures and unexplained pain. He became very, very ill with headaches that wouldn't go away, that would take out his sight in one eye. I took care of him full time until that fateful day in 2017 when he had a massive heart attack. I would literally give everything to hear his voice one more time.
Well, in the state of Colorado, if you want to start a funeral business, pretty much anybody can do so. You know, there's not a lot of requirements.
Colorado definitely lacks when it comes to regulation of the funeral industry. As a matter of fact, we're the least regulated state for the funeral industry in America.
Megan had a reputation for being a very aggressive businesswoman. There were a lot of questions circulating about the operation that she had going on at Sunset Mesa.
So the reason I chose Sunset Mesa Funeral Home was because of a dear friend who had lost a child. It appeared, for all intents and purposes, that the funeral home had treated that family with amazing love and comfort and dignity. David had asked to be cremated. David was not an organ donor. He couldn't be because of all of the medications he was on and all of the ravages of essentially Desert Storm illness, or Gulf War syndrome as they call it. There was no way he couldn't even be a blood donor. We got a phone call that the Cremains were back and ready to be picked up, and my son went with me. She handed us a little party favor bag, like you would get, like a little paper party favor bag that you would give a gift in, and it had blue pinstriped gift tissue in it. And she just set it down on the table and it just thudded. And her comment to me was, well, I had to remember to stop cutting on him because you needed ashes. And I just remember thinking in that grief fog and what have you, going, who the hell says something atrocious like that? Like, who says that? I have the cremains of my mother-in-law, David's mom, and that's actually in an appropriate sized box. And the box that I have for David is about the size that you would get a coffee mug in. And in the industry, it's known as a infant's temporary urn. So this is what you would put if you had cremated a small infant because you lost it at birth or whatever. And then it has my husband's first initial and his last name. So yeah. I kind of knew that day leaving the funeral home when she callously just kind of let it just drop onto the table and what have you. Something just didn't feel right. I couldn't tell you what, I couldn't tell you why it felt wrong. And it wasn't until the FBI raid of the funeral home that my gut kind of went, huh, I think we were onto something.
The FBI came to town, I believe it was in early February of 2018. I had other people contact me and say, the FBI has been in contact with me and said that my loved one's body or parts of this person's body have been found and they've been sold to various end product users, if you will. And so that really did give me an idea of what might be going on with the FBI. People were shocked and they were very interested once the Reuters series came out about the body brokering and Miss Hess's reported involvement in that.
And I would urge anyone who has not read that story to find it and read it. It is out there, and it's very hard to read.
So what Megan is accused of doing and what is in the indictment and in the scheme and in the plea agreement, and is pretty much what she did, is she would offer free or reduced cremation to low-income families or to families whomever, and she would literally dismember the bodies and sell them, but still then charge the family as well. So she was making money on both sides. So for instance, my husband was sold for $1,500. I also paid almost $1,000 for his cremation. So she technically made almost $2,500 off of just the McCarthy clan alone. There's one family, their loved one's body parts are still in an online catalog. I find that abhorrent. That company's been contacted and told, by the way, this is this person and this was done illegally, and yet we're 5 years out and they're still up on that website.
There were cases where, for example, family members were taken into a sudden guardianship and disappeared, and somehow their remains ended up going to the Sunset Mesa Funeral Home.
I can't even begin to imagine how the people who are affected by this even process something like this. The not knowing, and then in the cases when they do know, and it's the worst thing possible. I'm sorry, your loved one's body was sold, it's in Saudi Arabia, and you'll never get it back. I don't know how they go on.
She would do whatever she needed to do to get bodies and then would just dismember them and sell them. She's vile, she's dastardly, this is despicable, it's unconscionable.
She had some kind of wrongdoing with every family. There was never a legitimate funeral coming out of that funeral home, ever.
Such an atrocious saying of saying, well, I had to remember to stop cutting on him because you needed ashes. There's a part of me now, looking back 5 years, I would just love to throat punch the fucking bitch.
What Hess and Koch did at the time would have been a low-level misdemeanor under Colorado state law, which is abuse of a corpse. That needs to be a felony. There's no way in the world that that should be a low-level misdemeanor. I mean, that was the same type of crime pretty much as sleeping on a park bench after curfew.
I want to start changing laws. I want to change laws at the state level. I want to change at the federal level, but I have to start at the state level because that's where it all comes from, and move it up to the federal level. I'm hoping to use my Gold Star status to some extent. It's not an appropriate use, but at the same time, I kind of feel like it is, to change laws to prevent this from happening from another family. My initial intention with David's Cremains were to instill him and inter him in Fort Logan National Cemetery in the Denver metro area of Colorado, and that has yet to happen to this day.